Now, after that happened, I probably became one of the most ignorant people that have ever walked the face of this earth because my attitude was, I don't really want to know what's going on. Looking back now, I can 100% say that that is probably the worst attitude to take on because, I mean, somebody's violated you in the worst way, which you still aren't sure how they did it or why, but they have. But you're so in love that you're literally willing to blind yourself to it. And that's not a good thing, and I still to this day don't understand why I started taking on that mindset. I had a lot to worry about other than myself. I had other aspects of my life to worry about. So I would say looking back now I feel very bad that that's the way I felt. But in all honesty, that is how I felt. Right after that had happened, like soon after, he was raging. I mean, this was not something that had ever happened to him from his recollection before. And he was really mad. And he had fired a couple people around him, but I don't really know whether he knew, because he had no proof to it, but maybe had some hunch that they had something to do with it or knew about it. And this one individual that had been let go, he contacted him a few weeks later and basically had sent this email, which I still to this day have never read. But he basically said that he absolutely had nothing to do with the situation. He knew nothing of the situation as it had happened. He gave no insight into what he knew at that point. But he basically said that he knew now that it had happened. He had nothing to do with it. He didn't understand why he had been let go, yada yada. And then, I don't know, there's I guess a couple emails that were sent back and forth between the two. And he had let my boyfriend know that there had been some surveillance that had been going on that he felt uncomfortable with, and he had spoken up a few times about that. Now, looking back now, I probably wish that he hadn't have fired him because really, in the end, he had let him know a lot of things that we weren't even aware of at the time. And one of those things was that there was surveillance going on in my loft. Now, this individual, who is now passed, by the way, he has expired, which is crazy in itself because it was an accidental death, and this is an extremely healthy, just non-reckless human being that it's really strange. But he had given him through this little thing that's there's I don't know what it's called, like a hard drive or stuff. It's not a hard drive, but you pop it out, you push the button, it pops out, and there's this little thing, and then you can stick it into the computer, and it will literally load up different files or whatever. And so he's given something like that. It's sent through FedEx, and it basically 70 some hours of surveillance footage coming from my loft, my home. I guess that they could have put the cameras in, throughout the place at any time, because he had security there. But how they did it without me realizing, maybe I was at work or one of my shoots at the time, I don't know, okay? All I know is it happened. So we were given this footage. He had reviewed it. There was this one night, he'd been drinking way too much. And he just started raging out about this footage and telling me things that I didn't even know at the time. And basically saying that, there was a lot of stuff on that footage that was personal that we wouldn't want anybody to see. And, I knew obviously what he was talking about at that point. And I'm like, can I see some of it? Because I'm really curious as to what exactly is going on or what you're talking about. So he did. Now let me tell you, okay, This is like the absolute most like sophisticated surveillance I have ever seen humanly possible. Because it's almost like they had every angle imaginable available to them. When we were having sex, there was different, like, it was almost like you would expect that we were videotaping it. Like, at one point I was, like, sitting there saying, like, do you, like, literally have a camera on the fucking pillow? Because, I mean, that is so close, and, like, you can hear everything that's going on. You can see, like, I mean, it was so bizarre, man. I feel like I was living in the Twilight Zone. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, do they view this? And like, I feel so sick to my stomach. I'm a woman who is a very private person, and you literally are watching me have sex with my boyfriend, which is private. We did not do this in a public forum. We were in our own home, in our own bed, and it's such an invasion of my privacy. Watching through this stuff, he has to come to the realization that his family is literally watching us fuck. That is really crazy when you think about it. Who the hell has to go through stuff like that? So anyways, this stuff really pissed him off. I mean, he was literally beat red. He didn't know what to say or how to say it. Because, I mean, basically saying it's giving this guy up, who he fired. So it's already bad enough that he's literally, like, giving us all this information after being fired, which he totally didn't have to do. So, I mean, do we, like, mess his life up? Or do we just keep it quiet and start, like, taking in all this knowledge and realizing that we have the upper hand because we know what's going on now, or what? And so we decided we kind of would play that out. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, never have sex again, never have a private conversation again. Just like, I mean, what are we doing? He literally had this company come in and sweep the place for cameras, which I don't even know if they got all of them. I'm pretty sure they probably didn't. One of the cameras literally was inside my cable box. I'm so serious when I say this. It was inside my cable box. How it got in there, I don't know. Whoever set it up is like so technologically advanced that it's ridiculous. And I don't understand it because, like I said, I've given you my background. I'm not in that lifestyle. I don't understand the shit. I just know that it's absolutely crazy and it's going down. Now, I knew, obviously, being in a relationship with somebody of his stature and his relevance in this world, that there was going to be different things that I'd never experienced before. Okay, I understand that. But things like this? No, I could not understand. And I felt like I was violated in the worst way. Okay, you're watching me have sex. Not to say that we were doing anything weird or anything, but just like, come on. I mean, who wants people to watch that? I'm not, some girl who's like videotaping it with her boyfriend, to watch later. Come on, like, I knew nothing about this. So then, okay, we have this, right? I start moving on through it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what I can really do about that. They obviously want to know every aspect of our life, every conversation we're having, every time we're together. They've been asking me like some really weird questions. So like, I found questionable when he told me like the really weird questions that like a normal family would not ask somebody, which already was kind of like a red flag for me. But I was stupid at the time. I was stupid and I didn't understand and I didn't stand up for myself. And that is probably one of the most ignorant things a person can do. But it's the way it went. And so I kind of just let it slide. It does not make any sense, I know, when I say that. I was more knowledgeable to what was happening to me, but I didn't do anything about it. So, okay, just going through it since we're on the sex subject right now. I remember this one instance where, okay, just starting out to give you background. When I said in previous recordings about, having to deal with some things in my life back in the day, one of the things is, I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety disorder, and depression. I was diagnosed late in life. I guess I've been basically white knuckling it, but didn't really realize I was. Seriously, in my late 20s, I started realizing that there had been things that had been going on in my childhood that I was unaware of. Nothing from my parents, but from somebody that they hadn't trusted me with. It started snowballing in my late 20s. I'm only in my very early 30s right now, but it was a few years ago, just a couple years ago. Excuse me. So anyways, I had a nervous breakdown because of it. I started remembering things. I don't know what exactly made me remember these things. I have some ideas, but I'm not 100% certain. There was something that made me start remembering these things slowly and realizing that I was a child of abuse. I dealt with it the best way I could. I started going to therapy. They put me on medication. They put me on a depression medication and anxiety medication and some other things to kind of help me along. And I became a zombie, basically. I mean, it didn't help my problems at all. It basically just made me this blank shell that could deal with the problems by not feeling anything because I wasn't even a person at that point. I slept so much. They claimed it was me getting used to new medication. I don't know, maybe it was, but I felt like I wasn't a human being, like I was just a robot at that point in my life. This was a few years before I met him. It obviously ruined my relationships because, it's a really stressful time. It's really hard to get through a relationship with stuff like that going on. And I don't think that it's a negative if somebody left me because they couldn't handle my situation, because when they came into the situation, they didn't know, so it popped up, so I can't even blame him. But it did happen. So I kind of understood, I found a really good therapist about a year ago. He was able to get me off all the medication and find really productive and healthy ways to deal with my anxiety, deal with my depression, and everything else without having to be bogged down to really addictive medication that can screw up your body and basically make you a zombie. And it's been working for me ever since. And I understand people, and I think I'm more relatable to people because of it. I don't know, maybe that's just me thinking inside my head. But so, okay, a few months into us dating, right after that whole situation, he started waking up in the middle of the night, having these night terrors. They're like waking up drenched in sweat, freaking out. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, obviously I knew he was having bad dreams and night terrors or whatever those were, but I didn't really understand what was happening or why. And the only way he was able to really deal with these was sex. Sex healed him. It wasn't medicine, he wasn't going to therapy, he wasn't doing anything. And I could tell really quick that he was, PTSD. I could tell. Just with what he did for a living at the time and just the things he dealt with in life, I knew he was PTSD. I didn't really understand why though at the time. I didn't realize right then that it was for more reasons than what I had thought at the time. And his only way of really coping was sex. he would wake up in the middle of the night just freaking out, just drenched in sweat, literally. The sheets would be soaking wet. And he would basically reach for me, and he would basically use me to get himself out of whatever was going on that woke him up. And I'm not saying anything bad about that because that was his way of coping, at the time. He didn't have any other way, and he wasn't even diagnosed at the time. And, I guess it's just, I don't know, maybe he's like, okay, well, if I feel something like this, I know I'm alive, and I know I'm okay, and I know that, like, whatever I'm feeling is just temporary, so, whatever, and I basically went with it a lot. I wanted him to talk to me about what was going on. He wouldn't. I wanted to understand what was upsetting him. He didn't want to talk about it. But I realized through my own situations, through PTSD, that you can't push a person to really discuss things that they don't feel comfortable discussing. Because, that's just going to make a worse impression upon them, and it's going to scar them worse. So when they're ready to talk, that's when they're going to talk. So, okay. We went through this. I started getting a little more serious. Choking during sex. Not to say he was abusive, because I'm 100% saying he was never abusive. But just, different things that I didn't understand at the time kind of took me into my own problems because, I'm a survivor myself. I'm not understanding why you're coming at me in this aggressive way where you're having night terrors, and I just want to understand you. And you won't talk to me, so I feel like you don't want to open up to me or let me know what you're about, so that it offends me. And it was difficult. And so I did, against my own nature, knowledge, tried to push him a little bit, and he would push back. Until one night I was just like, you know what, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. You can talk to me, or you can get the fuck out. I regret that now, because I think he literally felt like he was a broken person, and he didn't know how to tell me, and he didn't feel comfortable with telling me what was going on inside his head. And I don't want him to ever feel that way, because he is 100% one of the most genuinely amazing people I've ever known in the whole of my life. He's just a really good person. I talked him into therapy. He agreed. Because I kind of laid it down, like, I'm gonna leave you if you don't start working on your problems. I can't deal with them. You can't use my body to get yourself out of these situations. We're gonna talk about it. If you won't talk to me, then you don't trust me. If you don't trust me, then there's no reason why we need to be together. And I basically pushed him. And I regret that now. To an extent. Not completely, because I know now what I did actually did help him, so I don't want to say, okay, well, it was complete loss. But I still feel guilt in pushing him in the way I did. He started therapy. I don't know when we went on in therapy because he didn't talk to me about it, but I realized very soon after he started therapy that he started wanting to talk to me about something. And then I started realizing, okay, first of all, going back a little bit, his PTSD, I knew that he had that because there was, this one night in Brooklyn when, we went to this event and there was, fireworks in the neighborhood afterwards and, they were going off and all of a sudden he started getting, really edgy and it was just, it was, completely against his normal nature. But I equated that as his job description. Obviously most people that came out of what he had dealt with had those type of problems. So I wasn't 100% sure what it was that was really pushing him over the edge. But then there came a time when he started asking me these questions when you realized you're abused as a child, what did you feel? What did you think? What were you going through? And I started thinking okay, like, I mean, he's always interested in my situation. He always was extremely sympathetic and caring into my situation, and you could tell it hurt him whenever I talked about it. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and listen to you. It was like, literally, like, you're feeling my pain. Like, I felt that way about him. That maybe he was like probing me because something was going on inside his head that he wasn't really getting, and he just wanted to talk to somebody, but he wasn't 100% sure whether I was the person he should be talking to. And I think like a little bit was confusion, and then just being a man in general. Like, you know, it's a lot easier for child abuse survivors to be women. I don't know if that really makes sense to you, but you can kind of like understand it a little bit better. Men, they have a shame that's way worse than women, and I don't want to like make it seem like like it's okay, you know, to do that to women, but it's not okay to men because obviously in no way is it okay to do it to anybody. But there's just a shame that is so much more, you know, bigger than life for men because they're like, you know, questioning their manhood. What are you gonna think of them? Are you going to come with this conclusion that they're maybe have homosexual tendencies? That's just this weird thing, the stigma that goes on. And so, yeah, I didn't really want to probe it because I knew what it was like, and so I just was like, I'm gonna wait for him to talk to me about it. Before I went to therapy, there was this one night we were having dinner in the hotel room. We had rented a hotel room and having dinner, and he had ordered out, and I brought it in, and we're sitting there talking, and he was just like, I'm starting to think something happened to me when I was younger. And I'm like, what do you mean something happened to you when you were younger? Like, do you want to elaborate on that? And he was like, I mean, I just feel like maybe something happened to me when I was younger. You know, just somebody that my family knew had taken advantage of me when I was really young. And maybe some really bad things happened and I saw some really bad things that I shouldn't have seen. I didn't really understand what he was saying. I kind of got it, but I was just like, I didn't really fully think that he was talking about that, to be honest with you. He's like, but I don't really know what happened. I mean, it could just be me thinking it happened because I've listened to you, and like I'm so sympathetic to what's happened to you. I just wanna take your pain away from you. Um, and maybe I don't know. Maybe somebody's putting these thoughts in my head. I'm like, well, who was talking to you about child abuse, baby? Because I don't really understand what you're talking about right now. He's like, I have this gut feeling, and I can remember my parents fighting when I was young, and I know something happened, but I don't want to talk to you about it. I feel really weird. He felt so weird, and at that moment I knew, like, he knew, and I knew, like, this really had happened to him, and I didn't want to push him, and I'm like, so you want to talk to me about it, or what you think might have happened that maybe didn't happen, because I wanted to keep on saying, like, you know, to make him feel comfortable. You can talk to me. I'm never gonna judge you. I'm never gonna look at you any different. You understand? I love you unconditionally, no matter what is going on. Just talk to me, baby. I don't care what it is. And so he started talking to me more and more. A few months on, like, we realized, okay, this happened to him. Now, it wasn't his parents or anyone in his family. But there were some people that his family entrusted him in, and they took advantage of him the same way. I started thinking to myself one night, like, literally, like, this guy is like everything about our lives. Like, we have completely, like, a different environment, lifestyle, background, everything, come from different countries, come from different lifestyles, everything. But we almost have the same exact experiences, and I almost feel like I was made to meet you. Like, at some point in my life, we were destined to be together, like, in some way. I know this doesn't make any sense right now, but it did later on. I'm gonna explain this. It's so weird how everything kind of came together. We kind of almost feel like we realize like we're the same person, just male and female, just the same person in completely different sexes. You'll understand like later on the experiences that we've had that are so bizarre, just sexually, socially, personally, professionally. It's insane, and I'm going to continue on in a few minutes about that.